Well, in the interest of time, I'm going to very quickly introduce Mann-Grandy, Mrs. Fred, who is a distinguished radio and TV personality. And Catherine, just come on up because I want to leave some time for questions. I'm sure you've got lots of questions. So
much time. Well, hi. That's it. Time for questions. I'm going to take just 2 minutes, okay? I just want to say that my husband told you all this stuff, and he didn't know anything about this stuff a year ago. I came home from a briefing where John Guandolo basically took my head off with all the information, and I couldn't talk for at least 2 hours after I got home, and then I started to tell Fred about it. And eventually, he put me on with some segments with John and then Frank, and we all kind of learned together. But since that time, Fred has really learned so much about this, and I'm hoping that all of you will be enthused and challenged by what he has learned about what is going on in our country. This is really a fight, if for nobody else, and there are a lot of nice-looking gentlemen in the room, but it's for us ladies. Sharia law is horrifying. Nobody has really said stoning to the death. Stoning to the death for adultery, okay? And that could be rape, because if you are raped under Sharia law, you need 4 male witnesses to say it was a rape. Women have no rights under Sharia law, except the women who are in the White House, who are known as pious Muslims. One was named Magahed. There was Ingrid Madsen, and then we all know of Daisy Khan, who goes around talking about her husband's idea for the mega mosque in New York, and she looks so nice in these Life magazine photos and all, and they're all promoting in their own way. They are working their way, their Sharia way, into our country. Now, Frank mentioned the New Jersey case where the woman was repeatedly raped and beaten by her husband, and the judge said, yeah, well, it's your culture. Okay, all right, that was overturned. But why did that even happen? And there was a case here in Maryland earlier, you might want to look up. You have to look really hard, but you do find it, where a Pakistani man came here, followed his wife, would run away from him, claimed the child, basically under Sharia law, and was able to take the kid back. That happened in Maryland. It was called Hossein versus Mubarak?
Malik.
Malik? Yeah. Is that, Frank, you're looking at me. Did I say something wrong? Oh, okay. Well, Frank is not commenting on that. So if you want to talk about that, I'll talk to you later. In addition to that, I find it very comical that Jay Leno's wife said recently, you may have read this, that women are treated better in the Quran than in the Bible. Yeah, well, I'll leave you on that note, but remember, the Muslim Brotherhood's 3rd stage is basically coerce the media, okay? Thank you so much for being here, for listening, and questions now.
well, Catherine, that was pretty amazing that you could tell us that much in such a short time. Now, I'm sure you've got questions. We have microphones out here in the middle of the hall. We have the right-wing microphone over there, and we have the left-wing microphone over here. So, who dares go up to the left wing? I like that. Okay. Please, young lady.
Hi there. I'm Charlotte Fitzgerald from Potomac, Maryland, Montgomery County. My question is, you mentioned 3 states. Which 3 states are?
That
I know Maryland's not part of it.
adopted American laws for American courts. Tennessee,
Okay.
Louisiana, and Arizona.
All right, I know where I'm moving.
All right, now we're going to go to the right wing, the young lady.
Yeah, just something in the way of a little bit of information. I understand that according to the Tolerance Act of 1649, mosques should not be allowed in the state of Maryland under our laws that we have had on the books for a lot of years now. But I learned this at the Institute on the Constitution, which is based right here in Pasadena, Maryland, and it's very eye-opening. So if you would like a very good course in the Maryland Constitution as well as the United States Constitution. I can't tell you strongly enough that you should really seriously come and take that course. Thank you.
Okay, I think the First Amendment probably supersedes that law. No, we have nobody in the center. I like that. I like that. Good. Revelations 3, don't forget, the Church of Laodicean. Yes, go ahead.
Happy time from the Eastern Shore. I was concerned when I saw that our distinguished former Congressman Anthony Weiner, who is Jewish, was married to a Muslim woman, Huma, who happens to be the right-hand man for our Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton.
That's a good way of putting it.
And her family background, they moved to Saudi Arabia, her mother teaches there, all that. I found that terrifying, and yet in the media I wasn't hearing anything. Can you all comment on the fact that Hillary is being advised by this young lady, who shouldn't be married to a Jewish man?
Huma Abedin is her name, I believe. Yeah. She is the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Secretary of State. Fred mentioned several prominent Muslim American women who are now influential in policy. There's no question she is. In fact, the Secretary of State, as I recall, went to Egypt recently, visited her mother, who was a prominent Muslim sister, at her university, and described as very important and sensitive the position that Huma has in her office. That's a fair, I imagine, understatement, actually. By the way, Huma's brother is also a prominent Muslim brother in Egypt. So this is a pedigree individual. And I think, again, as John said, it ought to give all of us pause that such folks are in very sensitive and important positions, most especially with respect to defining our policies towards the Egyptian Spring and the Muslim Brotherhood outreach program. If I might just give one quick example of this, there is a problem that was referred to in John's slide. You remember Abdurrahman al-Amoudi, the top Muslim brother who was shown with Bill Clinton and Al Gore and then with George W. Bush. He also was responsible for setting up the penetration of the Muslim Brotherhood of the conservative movement through the good offices of something called the Islamic Free Market Institute, whose founding chairman was a man you may have heard of by the name of Grover Norquist. Yeah. Grover Norquist has, since 1999, and to this very day, been using his access to politicians, to Republican and conservative movement leaders, to grassroots organizations and others, to promote the Muslim Brotherhood agenda in America. I have a briefing on this subject, which I'd love to show you another time, but just suffice it to say, Huma Abedin is in a sensitive position, as are others, in part because, as John was indicating, there has been a systematic effort to credential and in place these people in sensitive positions so as to keep us stupid about the nature of the threat of civilization jihad and advance it under our noses.
Let me emphasize what Frank just said, because some of you might think that you misheard. He said that there is an effort that is underway and has been underway for a long time to penetrate the conservative movement.
And just to let everybody know, we have 5 minutes left for questions.
All right. By the way, if you want to read the fiction on that, my book, Honor Killing, is outside. It deals with that and how it plays into the terrorist plot. Now we have somebody in the censor.
I am a little confused about the statements that two of you have made where there is a difference between Islam and the Islam regime. That my understanding was that the Muslim base their faith, if you believe in the Quran if you're Muslim. I mean, I don't think it's generic as a Muslim. And so if you believe in the Quran, the rule of law for the Quran is Sharia law.
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Let's start with what they say, who they say they are. In Islam, 100% of Islamic doctrine says Islam is not a religion. It's a complete way of life, social, cultural, military, political, and religious, all governed by Islamic law. Islamic law comes from a variety of sources, specifically the Quran, which is the uncreated word of God, the Hadith, the life of the sayings and actions of the Prophet, and then the biography of Muhammad, because he's the most perfect example. 100% of Islamic law, authoritative Islamic law ever published, all says that all Muslims are obliged to wage jihad until the world is subordinated to Islamic law. 100% of Islamic law defines jihad as warfare against non-Muslims. 100% of all published Islamic law says that jihad is obligatory, that the reestablishment of the global Islamic State is obligatory, and we know that we can take it from different centuries of law, and that it's taught here in the United States in Islamic schools, in Europe, in nearly every Islamic school at the elementary and junior high school level. So that ought to answer it. There's no dispute in Islam about what Islamic law is and what its obligatory character is.
So how are we separating Muslims?
Because here's the difference. Not every Muslim subscribes to this. There are Muslims who self-identify themselves as Muslims and do not follow Sharia. And as a national security consultant, it's not my job to say, well, you're a bad Muslim, you're a good Muslim. Okay, that's not relevant. If they don't subscribe to Sharia and don't seek to impose it on you, as far as I'm concerned, they're not a threat. However, people who do seek to impose it constitute an imminent threat. And that's the difference. So I agree with what's been said. This is not an attack. I think attacking any group of people is ignorant. To say that this is an attack on Muslims, however, Islam and Islamic doctrine, crystal clear.
Let me just add one more thing about that. Under Sharia, under strict Islamic law, if you do not follow Sharia strictly, you are an apostate. So if you try to customize your religion to the American Constitution or whatever our culture invites you to do, under a strict Islamic regime, you would be considered an apostate, which is one of the greatest crimes that you can commit when you fall away from Islam.
So there are Muslim apostates, basically.
And that may be one of the reasons you have not heard the so-called moderate Muslim community speak up in any great authority, because there is, as we know, internal pressure within their religious communities.
We have been told that it's time to end this, but let me just add one quick note about this. When you have a moderate Muslim go on Al Jazeera or another television program, he will immediately be met with Yusuf al-Qaradawi or another imam, another scholar of Islam, who will say, what you're saying is nonsense because Quran says, and then he'll go on and on and on about what the Quran says. So this is, in fact, a problem. We don't have time for more questions. I wish we did. We will be outside of the hall. If you want to learn about the persecuted Christians of Iraq and what it's like to live as a dhimmi means what they would like us to become in our own country, a second-class citizen under Sharia law. That story is in St. Peter's Bones. Frank Gaffney will have copies of his Sharia report. God bless you all. Thank you for being here.